artists are the biggest funders of the arts because it's their lives and time, and that allows for them to be artists. You imagine a society without art, society I think doesn't really respect and appreciate that. The original idea behind the murals started from a project I was originally doing, which was the Northcote Koori mural, and I met Eve Glenn when I was doing that mural. She lived in Northcote as well, and she'd been doing a project as well at that time. We became friends, and at the end of the Koori mural we decided we'd do something together and to do something about us, and well, it ended up not being about us, but we decided we'd do something about women.
It was a very strange time in our lives, I think. I'd worked on a mural with a friend of mine who's really like the mother of mural painting in Australia, Carol Ruff. So then when I ran into Megan, who was living in Northcote and was also painting murals, it was just like, we've got to do something together, and, we had great fun.
We both considered ourselves feminists, and we saw a lot of representations of women as objects, and objectified female bodies all over the place. They were everywhere in the media, as they still are. Nothing much has changed. We were a bit influenced, as I was with the Koori mural, by billboards and advertising, and thinking, well, if you can use those sorts of things to get messages across, then why can't you use large-scale images that are created for people and for the community to get a different message across. So we wanted to paint women who were real women and women who were diverse, and show the sort of community of Northcote as a counterpoint to all of the representations of women as objectified bodies.
We were just celebrating the fact that we were two mural painters, both women, responding to these big images that were starting to come out.
Well, it was very difficult getting, it took us 2 years.
Applying for funding, and then when we fell in love with that wall, we knew the wall we wanted, and then that turned into a big saga because they didn't understand that we wanted the whole wall, and they certainly weren't going to let us loose on it.
Negotiating with a board of all elderly men and very conservative, and they basically said they didn't want a women's mural on their wall. They thought it was going to be a mural full of raging lesbians, was one of the things they said. We didn't know at that stage what we were going to paint on the mural. We decided then that really the best way to represent those women would be to paint the women themselves.
It was very simple. It was like make a design out of the women we met, which artistically isn't a breakthrough idea or anything like that, but it was what we wanted to do.
We interviewed hundreds of women, literally hundreds of women. We had Fumi, the biggest image on the mural, which is the African woman who and her baby Bimbo, who used to run the record shop in High Street in Northcote. Then we had 2 gay women with the big guitar, Jane Guitar and Jay Bird, the 2 women who played in Barbie's Dead, which was the band that Eve played with and at the time. We were just trying to say, look, there's lots of different ways to be women.
We did actually have there was a girl using a computer in one of the images of a schoolgirl, and it's a really old-fashioned computer now. It must have been one of the first computers to come out. and it had Sisters Are Doing It For Themselves, which is a song of the time that we liked, and we thought that was sort of like the title. That was the title that people would go with, but they stuck.
Bonbonniere to Barbed Wire, we chose that title because we wanted to represent the diversity, like the breadth of women and women's lives. And Bonbonniere is the sort of things that, I think it's Greek culture, at weddings they have these little things that they put on the tables, which has got white tulle and glazed almonds, and it's sort of like the froof of women's lives, right through to the barbed wire on the Fairley Women's Prison. So we went and met with the women at Fairley Women's Prison and talked to them about the mural, even though they couldn't participate. We put the gate of the prison and the razor wire on the prison wall as a way to represent those women. So the title was representing the breadth of women and women's lives. It sort of was like the two extremes.
Just the extremes of women's lives, really. And all in Northcote at the time.
So in a way I wasn't offended artistically by the graffiti. It was something I did 30 years ago and it was so big and it was in such bad repair. I was like, oh. It wasn't until people responded and were so outraged and angry that I started to wake up and realise actually that mural really meant a lot to those people. When people sort of responded the way they did, I started to think about the fact that he'd written over women, like he'd painted over the women, and the women, I felt outraged for the women in a way. It made me realise that it had a life beyond me, which all murals do. You know, once you do something big in the public domain, it's really not yours anymore, it belongs to the community. And I discovered, you know, the degree to which people are attached to it, because you don't know that. You know, when you're painting it, you see people come past and, you know, wave and beep their horn or whatever, but then once it's done, you're gone and you never see what people think of something like that. We loved doing that immediate response, which was turning the Nost thing into Lost, so it read Lost, which was sort of ironic because when I first saw it, so I thought it actually read Lost. And I thought, oh, some young feminist has done a big statement about how the mural is lost and feminism is lost, and I thought it was a comment on all those issues. But then when I saw the other one and realised it was just someone's tag, someone's name, so that was, Eve and I talked about that, and it was Eve's idea to actually do the sort of reconstruction of his lettering and make it read as lost.
All these Nost, lost. He'd written Nost and we changed his N into an L. Not an easy thing to do, and he came back that night and changed it back into an N. And we thought, we're not going to go into war with him. I don't want to give him any more notoriety. I mean, he's actually made us realise, his action made me realise that actually a lot of people cared about it and liked it, and 'cause it was hard. It's hard to know when you're so involved in something yourself. It was in its day. I mean, we got people who didn't like having that mural there.
That was what was funny when Nost covered over the wall, was we wanted to meet him and say, hey, we're graffiti artists too.
It was a kind of equally mad thing as what we did, you know, which was to say, oh yeah, we're going to have it all, we're going to do it all, and then proceed to make that happen. So his was pretty you know, kind of was equivalent kind of mad energy. His was just a bit destructive, that's all, and I don't think ours was.
In the interim, I'd love to see some young women, and I'd particularly like to see some women of colour do something on that wall, because the feminism of that day, of the 80s, it didn't really take into account what I've now learned about what they call intersectional feminism, which is feminism that is sort of looking at issues of race and whiteness and privilege and all of those things.
The scale of it was quite, you know. But there were people writing articles in the newspapers that sort of said it wasn't art, and, you know, they didn't know what it was. It wasn't art and it wasn't graffiti. A lot of women we knew were very proud of it, you know, or what we'd achieved.
The wonderful thing about doing the women's mural, which I really will always appreciate, was the opportunity to really embed myself in the community. You know, we went and had tea with the Greek ladies who did all the lace. They crocheted the lace that we painted over the back of the one section of the mural, and there was lots of really amazing people that we met.
It's the only way to do something, I think, is to be that obsessed.